Hello again, everyone. This is Silver de la Rosa, and I welcome you to On Silver Screen, where learning is interesting. To continue with our discussion with regards to procurement and tendering, we are now at episode 7 of our season 2, and today we will discuss the tender processes part 1. Please support my channel by dropping a like on the video or sharing the video to your friends, especially those who are preparing for their APC. And if you haven't done yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on the notification bell so that you will be notified every time I upload a new video. Our objectives for this discussion is to understand the following aspects of the tender process: pre-tender estimate or PTE, timing of tender, the suitable tender period, and how to issue tender documents. And once the tender documents are issued, let's talk about the processes that will follow, such as tender queries, tender addenda, mid-tender interviews, and let us discuss how to deal with tender withdrawals, or when the contractor will withdraw during the tender process. The primary reference for this discussion is the RICS Guidance Note on Tendering Strategies, first edition. Let us talk about pre-tender estimate, or PTE. It is worth noting that a pre-tender estimate is not part of the tendering process, but it is a must-have for the client team or tendering committee before the tender is carried out, as it will play a great importance in tender analysis phase. It is important to know the estimated cost of the project due to the following reasons. First, the client will want to know that they can afford the proposed development, and pre-tender estimate will be the basis of comparison when the tenders are returned. If you want to learn the skills and techniques used in the preparation of pre-tender estimate, please visit my previous video on quantification and costing of construction works, where in episode 1, I talk about the basic essentials needed to quantify and estimate the works. And in episode 2, I discuss about cost estimating techniques that can be used in the preparation of pre-tender estimate. Now, let us go to timing of tender. Also from my previous video, that is episode 3 of quantification and costing of construction works, I discuss about cost planning in relation to RIBA plan of works. This time, we will talk about the timing of tender strategy in relation to RIBA plan of works. For single-stage tender, within the period where concept design is being prepared up to the period where spatial coordination is done, single-stage design and build tender can be carried out. While from the period where technical design is about to start up to the period where full technical design is available, traditional tender is usually carried out. Prior to completion of technical design, you can have a single-stage traditional tender with contractor's design portion. The level of contractor's design requirement will be lesser until such time that you can have a full traditional single-stage tender when the technical details is fully completed. For two-stage tender, the first stage can be carried out within the period from concept design up to the completion of spatial coordination, and the second stage can commence during the technical design phase. Negotiated tender, on the other hand, can be carried out at any time within the period of development of concept design up to the completion of technical details or technical design. If you want to know more about this procurement strategy and tendering strategies, please visit my previous video on Season 2, Episode 5, where I talk about the tendering strategies. Now, let's talk about the suitable tender period. The suitable tender period may vary from project to project, and the following are some of the key factors that should be considered: the complexity of the project, the size of the project, and the time of the year. If it is near the holidays, for example, Christmas, or if you are in the Middle East, will it be near the Ramadan season? Because this will affect the tendering program or the tendering schedule. And the market conditions. Will there be any demand for steel that will drive up the cost? Or will there be any shortage of manpower due to certain issues like pandemic? A tender extension is normally requested by the contractor if they are unable to complete the tender within the given date. So if a contractor requested a tender extension, what shall you do? So if an extension is granted, then this extension must be given to all contractors, not only to the one who requests for it, so that an unfair advantage is not given. This may be requested by the contractors due to the following reasons: underestimating the amount of work required to complete the tender, current commitments. So probably one of your contractor just awarded a contract or a new project, so they cannot put in all the resources to your tender process in order to complete it. So they might request for tender extension. Tender addenda is issued too late. So when the tender team issued a tender addenda near to the tender submission date, what will happen is that the contractor will not have enough time to review the addenda. Therefore, the contractor may request for tender extension. It is worth noting that setting the right tender period is crucial to avoid contractors from withdrawing. If a contractor deems that they do not have enough time, they are more likely to withdraw from the tender process, rather than take the risk of submitting what they feel would be a substandard bid. Let us now talk about the manner of issuing of tender documents. The technological advancement has drastically changed the manner of issuance of tender documents. It is important, however, that a quantity surveyor knows how to exploit this technology and at the same time understands the traditional method and use it when deemed advantageous for the project. Tender documents can be issued in the following manner. First, traditional issue. For traditional issue, all tender documents would be assembled and boxed up into identical packages, and it will be issued to tenderers at the same time. This is particularly used for smaller projects, and it saves the tenderers from printing all the information once they have received it. But it can also be very expensive. Expensive to the part of the employer if they are not going to let the contractor pay for the tender documents. And on the other hand, it is also expensive for the contractor if they are going to pay in order to obtain these tender documents. Another method of issuing tender documents is through electronic issue and online tendering. For this issue, the tender documents were issued via electronic means. For example, it can be through CD and other forms of external electronic data storage, or it can be directly downloaded from an online portal or cloud storage. The advantages of this electronic issue is that it is less expensive. There will be a reduction in carbon footprint because you're not going to print all these documents. It can be available from electronic means and can be viewed electronically also. No need for printing. And there is an ability to track the time of tender opening. We will talk more about online tendering on a separate video. Please watch out for it. Now let's talk about the tender process. After you have issued the tender documents to the tenderers, what are the processes that can be carried out, or what will be the events that might happen? First, there will be some tender queries. And it is a common in every tender process. It is a positive sign which shows that the tenderers are reviewing the tender documents. And the absence of any questions from tenderers should prompt inquiries from the tender team whether tenderers are reviewing these documents. So if there are no questions or no queries from the tenderers, what the tender team can do is they can send out tender questionnaires with regards to certain points on the project in order to gauge if the tenderers are really reviewing the tender documents. The following are the actions that needs to be taken by the client team when tender queries are received from the contractor. First, all queries from the tenderers should be addressed in a timely manner. Answers to any tender queries should be issued to all tendering contractors and not only to those who ask for the question, to ensure parity is maintained. And confidentiality should be maintained. Therefore, the name of the tenderer raising the query should not be mentioned. And tender queries and answers should be recorded and worded in a way that will be suitable for use as contract document, because all these queries and the responses given to the queries will be part of the contract document. Therefore, a careful consideration should be carried out to record these queries and answers, as well as it should be worded in a manner that can be used as a contract document. Now, tender addenda. We often hear about this. Tender addendum number 1, tender addendum number 2, and so on. But the issuance of tender addenda is not desirable, as it may result for the tender team to be viewed as disorganized. But issuance of tender addenda is accepted and may be inevitable due to new information being made available after the tender submissions. Tender addenda can also be a result of queries received from tenderers, or additional information is already known to be available only after the issuance of tender documents. If this is the case, this should be clearly noted in the instruction to tenderers document, so that the tenderers would know that they will be expecting certain addendum to the documents that they have received. We have to take note that if the issuance of tender addendum is necessary, it should be issued as soon as possible and should contain as much information as possible rather than issuing too many addenda. So next is there will be some mid-tender interviews. Mid-tender interviews are becoming common, especially for larger and complex projects, as it could provide the following benefits. It could be an opportunity to meet the people working on the tender. The tender queries can be raised in a face-to-face environment and can be combined with site visits, because normally these mid-tender interviews are done also on site. And there is an opportunity to assess the tenderer's progress and an opportunity to reaffirm the tenderer's commitment. It is important that any information disclosed during the mid-tender interviews should be formalized and issued as tender queries or tender addendum to all tenderers. Now, tender withdrawals. How to deal with tender withdrawals? At any stage of the tender process, it will be possible that the contractor who previously expressed their interest to tender for the project may withdraw despite of the efforts that they have already put into the tender activities. Tender withdrawals by the contractor can happen due to various reasons, but this will be typically due to commitment pickup, and they do not have the necessary resources to complete the tender response. And having reviewed the information, they do not think that they will be competitive or believe that the project is too risky. Now, how to deal if this happens? If this happens, it is important that the tender team will follow the client's process, as the rule of procurement for every entity may differ. For example, the rule for private procurement may be different from government procurement, as government need to follow certain rules or stringent rules. So the following actions can also be implemented. The tender may continue with the remaining tenderers, or a new tenderer can be added to the list. If this action is agreed, all the tenderers should be notified and be given the necessary extension. Or the tender team may declare a failure of tender and start the process from the beginning with a selection of new tenderers. This usually happens when 2 or more tenderers withdraw from the process, or the number of remaining tenderer does not satisfy the client's procurement rules. Join me next on Silver Screen as we talk about the part 2 of our tender process. Please support this channel by hitting like on the video and sharing this video to your friends, especially those who are preparing for their APC. And if you haven't done yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on the notification bell so that you will be notified once I upload a new video. Thank you for watching and see you on part 2.